This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
Nathan, welcome to the show. It's been a minute since I've had a Canadian actor that's not in America, that's staying in Canada and doing the job and doing it well. Doing it really so well. Doing it well. Juggling between two shows. I'm going to even just start there instead of starting in the beginning.
Yeah.
How are you managing? What is the schedule between Georgia and Jenny and then doing the boys? Are they off schedule? Are you double timing?
It's super easy. They've synced up so nicely that like I do one show and then I have a bit of time and then I do the other show.
Oh, so you have a lot of time to then drop down and be able to switch characters because they couldn't be more different. How fun.
They are very different. Yeah, thankfully.
So I like to start sometimes in the beginning with rapid fire questions, if you will appease me, and let's just whatever comes to mind first. So when you book the job, who's the first person you call?
Oh, good question. I think it's funny because, in regards to the boys, I was at home because it was over the Christmas holidays that it happened. So I was like, so my parents were like right there with me, and I was like, okay, this role came, like, what do we do, and just like going through, the scenarios with it, and so they got to be a part of that. But honestly, I feel like, because the last several years have mainly been the Boys and Ginny in Georgia. Um, when I get a role, I typically, I'll tell my mom, but I'll just kind of keep it a little private and I'll just like prep and like eventually I'll tell my friends I'm doing this or doing that. But yeah, I just tend to dive in and focus on the work.
Okay, so how do you celebrate when you got the boys being at home? How did you celebrate?
And this makes me emotional thinking about it. Like it's such a long, hard journey, right? Mm. And the thing that comes up to me is not that you celebrate, it's like you cry, like there's just this release because it's been so long, this journey of starting out to get to where, you are when you get that call. And you have to have so much faith. You have to let go of so many things that didn't go your way. You have to hold so much in. We all know that getting close and not getting a job is a part of the business, but it still takes a toll on you.
Yes. So that leads me to the next rapid fire question. How do you recover when those roles that take a toll or you get close to something and then you're not the selected choice? What's your recovery process?
In regards to that, it connects back to the boys because in 2017, before I got the show, I really wanted to go down to LA for pilot season. Like I really wanted to just like try once and like do it. And I had gotten like a recurring on Supernatural. And then I was like, cool, I'm going to save up this money, go down to LA. And then the year went by and I came really close to a lead on a TV movie, then really close to a lead on another TV movie. And it's the ones where you get really close where like when you don't get it, it hurts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we were coming up. Sorry. Yeah.
No, exactly that. That's why I love asking this question because it's really interesting to see how we all take in and what we do to recover so that you're prepared for the next audition that comes in, the next opportunity. And it's really interesting to see what people's recovery process is because we don't talk about it much. There's so much mental health, I think, in doing this business that we do talk about the mental health part about being rejected all the time, but we don't talk about how we deal with the rejection. And I feel like certain people's answers have been really informative and helpful for other people to be like, oh, I could try that next time so I can let it go maybe a little faster.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And so, we were coming up to the end of the year and this other TV movie came up. And so I did it, didn't hear anything back. And then randomly, like 2 weeks later, my agent calls me and they're like, hey, can you do this again, but not in a British accent? Because like he was British, I was playing around and they're like, just do it straight. And I was like, okay, cool. And I just got it together. I submitted it. And we heard back from the director and the producer, and they're like, hey, you're our first choice. We're sending this to network. You're going to hear from us in a couple of days. And then one day went by, and then another day went by, and then another day went by. And like, it was just eating at me because like this would have been the job that would have let me go and do the thing. And so I find out I didn't get it. And I was so depressed. Like I had a roommate at the time. I remember he got me like this like Pokemon like Lego to like cheer me up. He's like, hey, play with this, right? And so I'm a big fan of like whatever you need to feel it. And like you don't have to wallow in it, but let the emotion like live through you and breathe through you and honor it for as long as it's there, you know? And I
Yes.
had this really concrete goal of wanting to go to LA for pilot season. And I went on vacation with my family. And I remember I was talking to my dad. He's like, okay, what did you guys accomplish this year? Like, what do you feel like you want to do next year or what have you? And in that moment, I know it's a process and we have to be gentle with ourselves. But I was like, Dad, like as far as like what my concrete goal was, I failed at it. And he was like, no, you didn't fail. You didn't, it's just one step. And I said, I get that. But right now, this is what I'm feeling and I have to be with it. And so I just felt it and I accepted it and I embraced it. And I just let that feeling be there for as long as it needed to be there. So I was ready to let it go. And it was on that vacation that the audition for The Boys came in. And yeah.
And okay, because it's called That One Audition, and I was gonna ask, what
Mhm.
is that? So you're on vacation and you get the boys. Is dad
Yeah.
gonna help you read? Who's helping you read on vacation for this audition?
So what was interesting is I'd actually gotten a deep audition like a month or two before. So for another character on The Boys.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great, like this would be amazing if I could do this, but like it might be a long shot. And it was actually because my friend Anthony Konechny, he was like, hey, I think you'd really love this, ask your manager to submit you. So I got that audition. And then when it came back, it was an A train scene and a deep scene. So I'd already done one of the scenes. So I was a little familiar with it. And instead, like someone at my agency was like, hey, we need this back like in 2 days. And I'm like, it's Christmas break. I just got on vacation. I'm gonna take my time with this. I'll tape it when I get back. So I just sat with it and I just marinated with it because for me, my parents, I don't know how it is with everyone else, but like your parents are like the primary relationship of your life, right? So if you're reading with your mom, like you can try to be another character, but the relationship of mother son is so strong. It's hard to pull myself out of that. So I've never really read with my mom, but I just sat with it. And it was because I gave myself the space to feel as downtrodden and as just dejected as I needed to be in that moment, that I was able to process it and satiate it and just come to the second audition with this just like fresh, hey, whatever happens, happens.
And because I'll be remiss, all the actors that are listening to this now being like, wait, you told your agents that you're not going to tape it right now? You're going to wait? And there was no rebuttal on that. How much time did they need? How much before you were actually shooting something were you able to take that whole week to not do it?
It was, yeah, I think obviously it's like a case by case relationship, with your agents. But I remember, I think the audition came in on like December 20th or December 22nd. So this was the first
That's
time
ridiculous.
I'd gotten, yeah, that's the first time I got an audition on like a few days before Christmas. So I'm like, who's really going through their auditions at Christmas time?
Who's going to be watching these on Christmas Eve to
Yeah.
see what's going to happen? Okay, so then let's talk the audition, the actual audition process, because you had to catch the audience up. You've been doing great one-offs, small recurs here and there. You did your awesome Supernatural, which every Canadian actor, I think it's like in America, it's like Law and Order SVU. If you get your SVU credit or your Law and Order credit, you are
Yeah.
the first brick. Whereas I feel like in Canada, it's like Supernatural. There's other shows like that. And then then here comes this. So what is your preparation for the boys audition? I know one scene you kind of already tackled, but other
Yeah.
than reading the script, understanding the world, like what is your process before, and you had to tape this, right? Because we're in COVID times.
Yeah. No,
We're
this is pre-COVID, but still a tape.
still tape. Okay. Yes. How did
So
you approach this audition? What is Nathan's process?
so my process, it really started to click for me when I started studying Meisner, you know,
Yes.
and just
Yes.
repetition and descending and receiving and developing an opinion. And so if I am able to read it with someone, oh, the first thing I'll do is I'll record it on like Line Learner. And I'll just like just listen to the lines, repeat the lines, let it seep into me and like just let different thoughts come to me and just have different opinions. And then I will read it with a friend, and I'll just repeat it back and forth, or I'll repeat my lines, I'll repeat the other character's lines. So I have a strong opinion about what I'm saying, but also about what the other person is saying, you
Mhm.
know?
Yes.
And that, and then honestly, at that time, that was really the fundamental thing that was working for me. And since then I've gone deeper into script analysis, and it sounds kind of weird to be like, what are you talking about? Like, don't you always do script analysis? And there's a way in which it's kind of instinctual. And then there's a way where over the last several years, I've really dived into studying writing. And it's really connected me to, and even the character of Black Noir has connected me to the real need for it to feel a tangible desire, and you find what is the desire of the character, and then what is the conflict in the story. Because Robert McKee says in Story, it's like story is about a character pursuing a desire in the face of conflict, and nothing in story moves forward without conflict in a compelling story,
Mhm.
right? And so really understanding that, and being able to be like, okay, what's happening here? Based on what's happening, what do I want? What is the obstacle? Or sometimes you might be the obstacle to the other character when you're auditioning,
Mm.
right? And so
Yep.
figuring that out, seeing what they're doing, and then making choices of, okay, I'm going to do this here. It's like, going to take this action and this action and this action. And then and then like, what do I feel about does my action succeed or not succeed? And then how does that affect the next thing? It's a mixture of repeating and finding my opinion about both characters in the moment, but also doing the work where you lay down the kind of train tracks, as I call them. And when you have that laid out, you don't have to stick to it, but it's there in case you need to fall back.
Yes. You do this tape, you send it off,
Mhm.
and I'm sure with your batting average from the year before of getting close on every single TV movie,
Mhm.
what is the process of now being pinned, being told that you have it? Are you booked right off tape?
I was booked right off tape.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was thinking about this, and it ties back to a story. So at the beginning of 2017, I had an audition for Altered Carbon, and yeah, you remember that one?
Yes, yeah.
And so I was going over the script, and in the script, my character, I think he was at a bar and he was drinking. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go to the bar. I'm gonna go to a bar, have a drink, read the script, and I'm at the bar, and it's a bar in Vancouver where like actors go, writers go. And I was sitting down, and this guy started talking to me. So we're just chatting. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing this audition. It's based on a book, but I'm not gonna read the book right now. I'll read it for the callback." And he's like, "That's an appropriate amount of cockiness. I want you to audition for my show."
Wait, really?
Yeah, yeah.
And what
And
was the show?
the show was actually, I'm actually mixing this up a little. It was timeless, actually. It was timeless. So it wasn't supernatural. It was a couple years before. It was timeless.
Mhm.
And ironically or unironically, Timeless is also Eric Kripke's show.
Huh?
And I
Uh-huh.
remember him saying that he's like, yeah, man, like you got the role. Like I auditioned. He's like, you got the role. It was great. My boss just looked at me and he's like, that guy. And that is how I've heard Eric works. So I haven't talked to him about his process for casting people, but I remember, I was talking with Anthony, who plays Homelander, and I think he said too, like Eric, you'll just like look at a tape and it'll be like boom, and he just like has an instinct.
Well, and I think there's a big controversy that's been going on lately with casting directors and self-tapes and being like, oh, they're only watching 4 seconds or they're only watching 10 to 15 seconds.
Mhm.
Yeah. And because people know in a moment, and I don't think actors should be all up in arms about it. When we used to walk into the room, they already made their decision pretty much when we walked in too, and then we had to sit through them being like, thank you. Like they already have made their decision. You might do something surprising, and they might be excited to bring you in for something else. But I do think that there is a knowing when you've been doing this for a while as the creator, as a casting director, of what somebody is looking for. And it's not something that you can kind of
Mhm.
manufacture. It's your essence. It's the appropriate amount of cockiness that he's like, yes, I like that. That shows up in somebody's tape too. I think that confidence absolutely shows up. So then you get the boys essentially, right? After this tape goes in, then how does working constantly on the boys, how does that shift how you approach your audition for Georgia and Jenny? When that comes in, are you doing something different or cultivating in a different amount of script analysis? Since you said with that character,
Mhm.
Meisner was one thing, but really understanding and chewing up the writing, which the boys' writing is so delicious. Jenny and Georgia, totally different type of writing, totally different type of show.
Yes.
I want to
Yes.
know that audition.
So before I get to that, I want to circle back to something you said about just like casting in 4 or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And it's my thought that the oak tree is in the seed, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so it's like with an audition, as with other things, it's like you can't drop the ball and stop making choices and not give it your all the whole way through. But if you are trained and practiced and you have what you need to have for that role, they're going to be able to see that in the first 10 seconds.
Mhm.
They're going to be able to see the attention to detail and the opinion and the presence and the listening and the spark that you will have all the way through if you've done your homework and you're dedicated and committed. That's going to show up in the first 10 seconds. And them being professionals, they're going to know the difference between someone who has done the work and has that right there, right off the top, versus, maybe someone who still has to do a bit more work in that regard. I get that because my basketball coach used to say, how you do one thing, how you play in practice is how you play in a game. And so
Yep.
just every moment is just like a reinforcement of what you're bringing to the next moment.
Practicing how you play. Also, I think when we live in this land of self-taping now, you need to make sure you're practicing at home how you're going to play on set. You're not going to get 10 takes to get warmed up to get on there. You're not going to have to, you can't discover it in the moment. You need to be
Mhm.
at home throwing it down, how you're going to show up. And I do think that comes through significantly on the tapes. I can tell within a second of watching my own tapes or anybody else's tapes if they understand story within 4 seconds, if they understand the world that we're in. Am I invited into what they're creating? Have they created anything? Have they
Yeah.
created anything? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
And so
Jen,
yeah, to
yes.
get back to what you're talking about, actually, it was during, I think season 1 of Ginny and Georgia, going into season 2 that I really started diving deep into scene analysis. I think what playing the first iteration of Black Noir on The Boys taught me is you go to acting class or acting school, and they teach you what you need to know in the sense of like, scene, what do you want? What's your objective? Or, all those things. But what I found is what's really helped me is having a tangible experience of that. I went to an arts high school, and so just in school, there's more of an academic approach to things. And when I studied Meisner later, you do those exercises, you do repetition and then activity and then door, and it progresses. And we did that for about 6 to 8 months. And then in the second year of it, they're like, okay, cool, this activity you're doing, that's actually an action. And so you have this tangible experience of doing something specific to get to a certain result with stakes, with time, with someone else taking up your attention in all these ways that naturally breed the conflict you need in a scene. And then once they introduce actions, you're like, oh, and I know it's not like I'm playing doing this thing. It's like I am doing this thing to get this result. And Black Noir initially, like in the comics, he's kind of meant to be this presence that's just there, right? You don't know what's up with him. You don't know what he's about. So there was this kind of space with the character to just kind of be there in some scenes. And I had to make really deliberate choices, but it also really gave me a really poignant experience of like, oh, this is what happened. This is what it feels like when you're in a scene with no lines and no set desire. And in that, I realized how important wanting something in a scene was. And that was like a real great tangible experience of like, I got nothing. I have no lines to hide behind. So what is the thing that I do, and how is what I do fueled by what I want?
Yeah, how are you filling that space? So you're activated in that silence. I think a lot of actors default or they'll see that and be like, "Oh, I have an easy day. I'm just here in the background. I'm not, what is the point of being, why are you even there? Why are you even there?" So filling that space in. So then let's hear Jenny and Georgia. How does this audition go?
Oh man, it's funny with Ginny and Georgia, we had just I'm trying to think about this. I might have the timeline a little mixed up, but I think that the audition came in before, either right before or right after we had just done Comic-Con for the boys. So we had this great experience. There was some nice heat from it. And the audition came and I was like, oh, cool. There's an audition. And I just kind of like went about it the way I usually went about it. I practiced with one of my friends. I did feel like a simpatico with the character. Like I felt very in sync with him. And I taped it once. I went off to Vancouver to see my friends for a couple weeks. And then I heard they were like thinking about me, and I was like, oh, cool. Maybe it'll happen. And then I went back and they're like, okay, we want you to like go in and read for the director producer. I was like, all right, cool. And I went in and that was
In
it.
person?
Yeah, in person. This was 2019. So it was still
Uh-huh.
in person times. But it was just one of those things where I just like, okay, here's a show. I'd seen Netflix shows come in and out of Canada, do one season and then they're done, or maybe do two, or like, and so I didn't really think about like the future or the potential of the show. I just didn't.
There's no pressure. You're on a show, a beautiful show that's being received so nicely. I think that isn't it amazing when we're not chasing something, how beautifully it can land in that moment, that it's working, right? It's working in that moment versus earlier in our careers where you're kind of chasing this idea, setting a goal of moving to Los Angeles, and how every single opportunity feels like a disappointment versus when we're kind of in an accepting place or in the work, just in the work, and how more work sticks. I call that the relevancy phase. When you're in development, you're learning. We're learning more mentally than I think we're even learning maybe sometimes in our craft about how the business works, about what it means to get on set, what it means like when you're a reoccurring guest star and they're not bringing you in for the next episode because they don't have money because they brought somebody else, and just learning how it all works. And then you have your relevancy phase. That means you've mastered something. You're sitting on a set, you're kind of learning script analysis in a different way. You're getting excited about story in a different way. And then things are sticking to you a little bit
Yeah.
faster. I want to talk more holistically too, because somebody, especially you saying that like the goal was to get to LA, the goal was to get to LA. Both of these projects keep you in Canada as well. Is the goal still get to a different market. It's a different time. Thank God you're in Canada. So
Yeah.
how does, when does that shift as far as like, let me get to LA? What's
I
the shift? Yeah.
I think it came from a few places. Number one, I think Toronto and Vancouver are great places to build your resume. They're fantastic places. So many shows, and you have so many opportunities for principals, for recurrings, for guest stars. And there is a little bit of a plateau once you reach a certain spot, and you feel like, okay, I can get here, but there's no kind of next step. And so for me, the next step felt like getting LA representation, which I was able to get in a manager, but just being in that circuit, I felt like I needed to give myself that opportunity. And you said a few things that I want to touch on because they brought up some stuff for me. And you talk about like really when you talk about wanting something and how much space opens up when we let go of that, and that's it's such a paradoxical thing,
Mhm.
because what I found, especially in my early years, it's like if I really wanted a role, like 9 out of 10 times, I would fuck it up. Like I would do something, like I would be in my head, or I'd want it too much, or whatever. And then I think people can also feel when you really want it, and it's just off-putting to them, right?
Mhm.
And so I tried to find this balance of like, okay, hey, well, I don't really need this. I don't really want this. But then the byproduct of that sometimes was I wouldn't put in the work I needed to put in. And so there's that offset. And then you find this happy equilibrium where you really want to do the best job possible. You want to service the character as well as you can. And it's this balance of let go of the need to get the role, let go of the desire for the role. But I think that's it because it's like it's so easy to want and get attached to the outcome.
Mhm. Oh,
If
yeah.
you keep your healthy desire and also let go of the need for it to happen, it'll open up so much space in yourself as you walk in the room and also in your performance that will let you have access to the presence and the creativity and your spark and your dynamism. So for me, that the kind of balance I found was like letting go of needing to get the role, like stop not thinking about the future, like, okay, am I going to get it, am I not going to get it, just looking at everything as practice, but really committing to my character and what they wanted and what they were living in.
Yes, I think that, well, that gets us back into a really curious state of mind versus a result-oriented mind. And it's interesting how long it takes people in their careers to get to that point. When do you think it was at the boys that you got to that point? It sounds like to me it was earlier than that,
Yeah.
yeah, that you got to that point.
When I think back, it is kind of let's call it kind of like a slow progression, right? I think that you're bringing up things that are triggering, a bunch of different thoughts. And so I'll just say some of them. But like, there's that saying of like, what is for you isn't going to pass you by. And I remember I auditioned for a series probably around 2015 and I didn't get it. And it wasn't, I was like, okay, I didn't get it. But a month later, I ran into the writer producer and he was like, hey, just so you know, you did a great audition. It was a fantastic audition. You could have done this part, but we need your relationship with this other character to arc in this direction. And based on your dynamic, you would have just started there off the top. So we had to go in a different direction. Right. But if I had gotten that role, I would have been on that series when the boys was auditioning.
I love that. That's a big part of why I love this podcast is being able to connect the dots thereafter, where you're like, oh, well, if this would have happened, I wouldn't have been over here. Or if that would have happened, it wouldn't have been here. Retrospect, we can put so many things into place. But also, I think that, oh God, what did you just say that I thought was also just so insightful? That when this is what I think would be genius. What a gift that was. That guy came and was like, hey, by the way, you were great. This
Yeah.
is just why I was not. I wish we could leave an audition room. I wish we could send a tape off into the ethers and just get some points back. Great tape, not the look. Great tape, not going to work. Great tape. Or this is why, hey, by the way, our lead guy is 6'5" and we really need you to be 6'8". Just great, just little nuggets along the way to reassure you that it's not talent, it's construction. It's a puzzle piece, right? It's selection. Always it's selection, not rejection. Yeah. You were getting
Yeah, absolutely agree. And when I was in university, for my final year, we got to do whatever project we felt like. So I wrote and I produced a pilot that I was able to act in and cast and do that whole thing. And I had an experience in the casting process. So we were casting, a bunch of roles, and there was a key role that came up, and we were seeing people, and I was like, "Ooh, this is a person." And I had 3 or 4 people, or my classmates who are also casting this with me. But in that program, it was more technical film production, and so they didn't have much storytelling, creative acting experience. So it was just me in that regards. And I saw that this person had the thing for this role that I had written, for this thing that was very close to my heart, and the rest of them didn't see it, right? And I had to fight for that person. And then another role came up where, again, someone was perfect for that role. And again, they didn't see it. But I was mindful that for the sake of group cohesion and what we were trying to do, I had to give because they had just given to me. And that experience just taught me so much. I'm like, oh, like I'm putting together this mosaic with people who don't have the same background creatively. And I am having to make a sacrifice on what I know is the right creative choice. And it's nothing to do with what this actor brought to the table. It has everything to do with what's going on back here.
yes.
And also what was so clear to me was also like, as much as I was looking for the best person, I was also looking for the best person who fit with everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think that's the most invaluable lesson that you could have as an actor, whether that's being a reader, sitting on the other side of the table, so you understand the business part of it. So you have been working on 2 different shows. You've done several other shows. What other business savvy tips do you wish you would have known earlier on that would have helped, I think, calm your talent mind, calm your craft mind, calm your career mind even?
This is what's coming up, and it's not it doesn't necessarily tie directly into that, but I think sometimes some of our biggest opportunities come when there is some chaos in our lives. And that, especially early on when I was getting, this is say back in 2014 or 2015, like the biggest things that had happened to me so far were also happening at very tumultuous emotional times. And I was like, no one told me about this in acting class.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was part of the thing. So you're like going through this thing, you're feeling all these feelings, you're distracted, you're torn, you're all of that. And then you have to show up on set and perform. And being ready and having a technique that you can fall back on and having the ability to focus and give yourself the space to feel what you need to feel, but also being able to shift and lock in and focus on the job you have to do. And yeah, that's something I learned in the process of it. And I was like, no one tells you this. But I think it's a great thing to be aware of and be prepared for.
Well, and have the process of letting go of whatever's happening over there, so to focus there. That is a skill set.
The TV and film landscape, it's constantly changing, but traditional actor training has largely remained the same.
It's focused on a theater model whose main goal is to help you stretch the expression of your instrument. That's why you can have years of training,
From scene study classes to audition classes.
to even an MFA, and still not be able to book a 2-line co-star.
That's why we created the Bridge for Actors.
A collection of tech, craft, and business online courses to teach you the skills that you need to go from a student of acting
To a working actor.
That is a skill set when we're using our instruments to be of service to the story, but you just got in a car accident on the way here. So how are you going to shake that off so you can be in this moment? That is such a skill set. Other business savvy things, especially you working in Canada. A lot of the listeners are in Canada as well. And I think that you get the boys. That's a reoccurring that they turned into a series regular
It was a series regular from the jump.
from the jump. So your first series regular.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you learn about negotiations or about the business? That I think will be invaluable for other actors to hear, especially because Canadian contracts are different
They
than
are.
working in the States.
Yeah.
So whatever you're willing to share
Yeah.
that you learned, that would be insightful and helpful for all my Canadian listeners.
Yeah. I think you have to know your worth. And I think in any scenario, when you're starting out, people are going to approach you and deal with you as if you're just starting out. This is your first thing. So this is what it's going to be. And we took the first offer that was offered to us. And it was a situation where there was like very little wiggle room. I had like, it was a very small amount of time to come to a decision because I had to fly out in like a day or two to do the first fitting. So it was a whirlwind. I was still processing, okay, I'm going to do this role in a mask. And the way that, the show and the deal with the boys evolved is there was, luckily space to grow in terms of like, the deal that we had as the years went on. And I think that it's this realization that, nothing is going to be given for free. It's like,
You don't get what you don't ask for. And that's the thing. A lot of actors don't, when it's your first time, you don't know what to ask for.
exactly. You don't know what to ask for. It's easy to be scared and say like, oh, I don't want to, ruffle any feathers or what have you. But this is business and it's business for them too. And, when it comes to the negotiation process, sometimes things can be, you're saying one thing, they're saying another thing. And it doesn't seem like anyone is super pleased during that time.
Yeah.
But ultimately you get to a good middle ground. And I think unity as far as when you are wanting to change things or fight for things or is really important. Being aligned with your castmates and your fellow actors. But yeah, there's so much even there's you have to be willing to fight for what you want and also know what point you're willing to walk away from something, to take it or leave it. And it's always a fine line. I remember one of my friends was telling me a long time ago about before I was on The Voice. He's like, yeah, you got to fight because they're going to offer you as little as they can sometimes. But realize that if they really want you, they are going to do their best to meet you somewhere. But you have to be willing to walk away as well. And that's the thing, you have to be willing. And so when it gets to the point where you're not willing, then you can chill.
Yeah.
But I think for me, working with the boys, working with Amazon, Sony, they've been really good to me and good to us. And so I'm really grateful for my working relationship with them. There's so much, it's so interesting how you go on set or you start filming and then this whole other world unfolds that's a different world than acting class and auditioning. And what makes the difference is when you are lucky enough to work with great people, because that is your everyday experience.
And let's talk about working with people. So as the person that was climbing the ladder, like we all do, we get to go and be guests in other people's houses. We get to go be a guest on this show, maybe stay for a few weeks on this show. You're picking up a lot of information of how to be a guest. And then you get to step into, you own the house. You have an ensemble, you have a family, and now people are coming in as guests. What's some information or what are some things that you guys do on The Boys that you wish actors that are coming in being a guest, and when you were a guest that you wish you would have known? Set etiquette, craft etiquette.
Yeah, as far as being a guest, I think it's they're it's hard,
I know.
you're jumping into something and everyone's like in their groove, it's cohesive, and you got to jump in and deliver. It's so tough, and like even just being on a series has really given me even more appreciation. I think knowing that you really have to be prepared, but also giving yourself grace because it takes time to get into the groove of things. Like even I can speak more for Ginny and Georgia because Black Noir, I've been masked for most of the series. But even on Ginny and Georgia, when we get back into the season, it takes me a few days to feel like I'm in the groove. And I've seen that with castmates where it's just natural. You're away for a while. You got to get warmed up. You got to get in it. And there's just something about being on set and on camera that sometimes takes a day or two. And so realizing as a guest star, you don't have as much wiggle room as the leads. So you got to be ready to go. And actually on that note, I think someone I learned so much from is my castmate Brienne on Ginny and Georgia. And her level of professionalism and her level of skill, just so specific with her choices. And I think one thing that is just apparent, especially if you're looking at it from a craft perspective, is you can see her thoughts really clearly. And we don't have a lot of time for, a bunch of takes on Ginny and Georgia, but she'll come and she'll just like, take one, got it. Take two, got it. Take three if we need it, got it. Next setup. And she's just ready to deliver. And so being just, for me, it's whether you're doing a guest or you're a series lead, it's being so prepared that you could do it with your eyes closed. Because one thing people don't account for is sometimes is nerves. Like your nerves, you can prepare and then your nerves are going to get in the way. And the thing that you had that you were ready to say,
It's blown away for a second. Yes.
And then you have less command over yourself. So even myself, I love to just like run it, repeat it. And luckily I can like let it go and not get stuck into too much of a rut. But I've seen cases where nerves kind of take over people when they're trying to stay open. And I get the need to stay open. And if it works for you, amazing. But sometimes those nerves will take away the command that you have. So you have to prepare to be able to overcome nerves that get in the way so you can deliver regardless.
You can work on that performance anxiety. I think everybody has their level of performance anxiety. It's like going to Thanksgiving at somebody else's home. You're going to have a little bit of butterflies. How does this family operate? Where can I be on my best to show and give space to how this house is operating?
And you're making me think of another story. When I was doing Supernatural, there was a day where I just had no confidence. I was just like, I cannot help but doubt myself in this moment, in this scene. I can't get away from it. And all I did, like I'd been practicing, all I did was focus on what I was doing. I just did what I practiced. And it worked out. And what that taught me was that it's not the fear that fucks us up. It's the need to control as a result of the fear.
Ooh, yes. Say that again. Uh-huh.
So you can feel scared and do something. And as long as your attention is on the other person, you're doing what you practice, you're doing what you think, it doesn't have to get in the way. It's when we are scared, so we start over monitoring ourselves and guarding and trying to manipulate and manufacture our performance because we don't trust ourselves. That's what fucks us up. It's not the feeling of fear. And that's still one of my favorite performances outside of the Boys and Ginny and Georgia. And so it really taught me is like fear doesn't have to stop you. You just have to trust and let go of the need to control when you do feel that.
Yeah, I think also if you're prepared that feeling of fear is also excitement. So it's how you also can talk to yourself in that moment. If you haven't prepared and fear comes up, you have nothing to lay on it, right? In that moment. So you have nothing to
You got
resort to. And then I feel, we've all been on sets before where you can watch somebody, you're like, oh no, they've gone in the hole. Somebody needs to go help them get their mental space right, because now they're tripping up. And once you get in that loop, it's hard. And then you feel the series regulars, you feel the pressure because they've got to move on to the next thing. So I think time is money. Time is money.
It is, yeah. And you just gotta be prepared to show up and deliver. And not in the sense of like being so focused on like result oriented and in your head, but realizing that like there is a way you are delivering a product. And just being as like you can't explore like we're in theater. As much as I would love that, we just don't have the time.
We don't have the time. Well, a theater is a director's medium, really, where they're helping you cultivate, you're getting to explore, find the character, get it up there. It's a full collaboration. Television is not that. We need you to come, and what you prepared, it's coming from your mind, your head. Very rarely in television. You could speak on this too. It's like, especially on The Boys, you're having a guest director that is invited into your house every week. So sometimes they're not giving a lot of instruction. So they are reliant on your professionalism, your script analysis, your knowing of the character to do what you came to do. Really.
Right. Because and so much time with these characters over the years that we know them inside and out. And this ties into The Boys, but I did another show called Surreal Estate as a guest star. And on that show, the director was Melanie Scrofano. Now, Melanie and I took class together when I was starting out. I had her in the project I made in university. And then she went on to be the lead of a series called Winona Earp. And so I've known her over the years, and this was I got to work with her as a director. And I learned so much just from knowing her as an actor and then seeing her as a director and what that required of her. And she was so present with us. She was like an actor's director. She was there as much as she could be. And I realized that as much as she was with us, she also had to work with time. And that was the primary thing she had to work with, because she had this many shots, this many setups, this many locations to do. And as a director, you have all of this stuff going on in your head that you have to be responsible for. And so just naturally, there's only so much time you can spend with the actors. And again, it does vary a little bit, but that it is a huge responsibility. And so just being aware that, yeah, the director, as much as they're going to be or they can be, will be there for you sometimes you have more technical directors who are more about the shot. So you have to be aware that you got to bring your ideas and really have it in those cases. And then even when you get actor directors, it's like, yes, they'll be there. And they also have a bunch of other stuff that they are responsible for, And so realizing that, and so I learned so much from getting to work with her, and I loved it. But that's something that I only learned because I could see the change in my friend. And on The Boys, we're lucky in the sense that we do really get to explore when we block a scene and are discovering the moments before we start to shoot. And we're able to take time and figure out what we want to do and how we want to explore a scene.
And it works. God, it works so good. Way to be a part of a show. Seth and Evan have done such a great job of not doing remakes, which we're living in now. We're living in the land of remakes, doing something inventive, doing something that's pushing the envelope or seeing like something we'd not see on television. And I think so many actors, when you get a script like that, we don't have anything to compare it to tonally. You have to take responsibility for making the choices. That's what they're buying, is your choices. And you guys have done it's so compelling to watch. all the time. It's riveting. For sake of time, I want to get into a couple more rapid fire questions before we wrap up, because these are the important questions, Nathan.
Okay,
Okay.
nice.
Craft services, what do you grab?
Ooh, I grab fruit snacks.
You're a fruit
Fruit
snack guy. Fruit snack
and
guy.
and I do like a little protein. Now this is a protein bowl where I get like tuna and avocado and hard boiled eggs. So it's like those two and some bubblies.
See, and it's always when I'm offset too, where I'm like, can I have crafty? Oh shoot. We
Now,
don't
no, not happening.
Okay. Most memorable first day experience.
Whoa. I'm trying to think of what. Actually, my first day on The Boys was doing like this BTS clip with Seth Rogen. And yeah, and it was great. It was so much fun. And yeah, I just remember like I just prepared so much for that because again, he didn't have any lines. So I got Seth's script sent to me and then or like his lines and then I'm like, okay, what's my reaction here? What's my reaction here? What's my opinion here? And that really set the tone for the character starting out.
I'm sure that makes everybody so excited to have you there. Best on set game or prank? I feel like the boys would have a good one.
It's funny. Let's see. Honestly, the boy like we have a soup side and a boy side. The soup side plays more pranks. Like
Yeah.
we don't play a lot of pranks on our side. I think there was one day where like Jack or Carl said it was the other one's birthday and like had like and this was in the beginning, so like everyone was singing happy birthday and the other was like, that.
Okay. Best rap gift.
Oh, oh man, there's so many. But what I will say, Colby Maniffy, one day, she just like wrote this like really, really nice card and she drew like a picture of Black Noir. And then she like mixed some astrology stuff in it, which I liked. And it was just like a very like heartfelt, like personal gift. And yeah, that's what sticks out.
Those are always my favorite too. Okay. Weirdest place you've auditioned.
Whoa. Man, I don't off the top of my head, I don't know, but I know that like one of the weirdest places I've shot was there's this like abandoned old hospital in Vancouver that
Uh-huh.
they would do like I'm pretty sure like lobotomies and stuff and like crazy stuff. And I think they shot Deadpool there. But
I shot there too. I know exactly the location you're talking about.
I think it's haunted.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I did a series there and I did a movie there. The movie was horrifying. It was a horror film and it served. I know exactly the location you're talking about because Deadpool was shooting there. And that was when Deadpool also had their accident on set with the stunt person.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. That place. Ooh, it
I
has.
remember like I was in the hair and makeup trailer and one of the women was like, "Hey, I'll give you some crystals for it when you go in." And I was like, "I don't need crystals." Then I walked into this room and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I need crystals." Like I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here, you know?
Mhm. There's more things at play in that space.
There
Way
are.
more things. Okay. What favorite actor you worked with?
Oh, so it's so hard. Like I can't, you know, Anthony, Chase, Colby, Jack, Jesse, Brienne, Tony, like it's hard. Like I can't, it's so hard.
It's like choosing your favorite kid. I know. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. What's the one thing that you've done that you're most proud of that you would love people to see? I'm excluding the boys and Jenny and Georgia here because we're seeing it. We're seeing it. The thing that you're like, I would love somebody to go back and watch this movie, this TV show.
I'm gonna say two things. I'm gonna say Twist of Fate, which is a TV movie I did. I think it was like 2016, 2017-ish. Like a really like lovely story. And then if you can find it, I did a couple episodes of a show, my first show, Aliens in America. And I love that show. It's so funny. It's so good. Like whenever I come across it or just like find it in my hard drive, it just brings me joy. Just like a really good, sitcom. And it's a beautiful, beautiful show.
I love that. And I love that it's the first project because that's the other thing too. When we get to a level of working where you're at on the Boys, on Ginny and Georgia, I love when you can peel back and go to the beginning of where somebody's developing their craft, what they're getting to experience. And there's so many good things out. We don't have all the time and space to explore all of the beautiful things. Thank you for sharing how you have built this, how you've kind of gotten in there and gotten gritty. I really do appreciate it. I know all the audience does. A lot of Canadian actors write in all the time and they want Canadian actors. This was a request. Here you go. So grateful that you came and stopped by the show. Where can everybody find you other than on the
Thank,
television?
thank you. And before I say that, I also want to say I have listened to your show for the years.
Oh, you
And
have?
it has been a source of inspiration and reflection and comfort for me. And so thank you.
I'm so glad. I love hearing when people like it's fun to sit in the hot seat, isn't it? To kind of like do a walk through how you do it. That's always just great to hear. It's really, I just think that it's such a service. What you're doing, you're using your instrument, you're being of service. And think about how many times it would have been nice to ring a friend or call an actor and be like, hey, how'd you negotiate your deal? Or hey, when you bombed that audition and nobody would ever talk to you again, how did you get your career back on track? So I think it's going to be really lovely to hear. It's always lovely to hear from everybody in their process. So I'm so glad to hear that you've been listening too.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, it's Nate Mitchell on Instagram. That's really where I'm at.
That's where you're at. That's where we can stalk you. We'll stalk you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Feel free.